Oh, old man sounds.
All right. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Two Angles on Angling. This is Jordan with my co-host.
It's Ryan, guys. What's up?
All right. So this is the second week with recording it. So we video and audio. So we'll have the podcast available. And it'll also be available on YouTube for you to watch. So I posted, two blogs this week. I reposted the one from last week because I had to figure out some website issues. I couldn't get the photos on there, so I just wanted to re-release it with all the proper content on it. Then I did another one of this last weekly recap. So I'll give you kind of the summary of a little bit of that here now with my fishing and nature report from the last week. And then also on my website, jdoutdoorsco.com, it is available. So, the weekly recap. Got out into nature 3 or 4 times this past week. Did a quick hike at Art Park. No fishing that time, but still bird life. Nothing too crazy. It was earlier in the week, and we had higher winds and just not ideal conditions to be seeing a lot of birds. So just had to get out, get the fresh air and get into nature a little bit. Obviously, check on the river as well. There's ice flowing. Not a crazy amount at Art Park there where I was, but there's still some flowing, of course. So then from there, hop along a few days, worked on the website throughout the week and everything. And Saturday and Sunday morning, so today's Sunday, yesterday and this morning, I was like, I got to get out fishing, even if it's just for a 2-hour window each day. Like, it's got to happen. I'm getting into the rhythm. I've been tying a lot of flies again and just getting into it. And I'm like, all right. And also, got to put it out there. It's been 3 years now since I've caught a steelhead.
What?
Yes, sir. 3. So,
Well, dude,
it's got to change.
I have some open days this week, so
Okay.
get out, we could maybe do something.
Yes. Yeah, that's got to change clearly. So that's been the mission. But in the process, a lot of good recon has been done because no fish have been caught yet. So, the thing with these 2 days, very similar to last weekend, just the places I fished and kind of the style. I fly fished the whole time, and I went back to the one spot, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to streamer fish the whole way down, and then once I get down there, I'm going to tie up my nymph setup and then just go back and finesse through the pools. It was low, it was super clear, and I was just, all right, this is the best shot I got. So as I got there, I'm getting rigged up. Initially, the birds were just starting to just absolutely ignite, and just the songs were just amazing. And I started walking down to the water, and I entered in, and then this kingfisher like flew right by me, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. And then he kept going back and forth a few times, and I'm like, all right, this is a great start to the day. Came across a goose shortly after that, had like a pretty decent list of recordings of birds for a 6-minute recording that I did with the Merlin app when I first got there. And so I'm fishing along, and I'm in this bend, and I'm like, all right, this is got to be a great area. I'm just gonna sit here for a while and just keep hitting it, even change up flies, whatever, and keep going. Well, I made a cast, and I was like, all right, that was pretty good. And I'm swinging it through, and I was like, kind of out of the corner of my eye, I'm like, something's going on. So I turned my head, and I'm like, oh man, bald eagle flying right up into the tree. So I'm like, epic.
Bald eagles.
I'm like, epic. So I sat there for a while. I'm like, all right, cool. All right, this might be a good omen. We'll see what happens. Hopefully I can get into a steelhead here. Didn't happen, but I ended up getting snagged, broke off. The eagle flew away downstream, and then when I got to the next spot, it was posted up in another tree over there. So I was like, all right, this is awesome. And there's ducks flying by all day, and I was like, oh, all right, this is cool. And then when I got to the end of the section that I was fishing and I was retying and turning around, a great blue heron flew over, and I was like, this is just Like
A lot
if
of stuff coming
yeah,
together for you,
one
buddy.
person, like just there's no one else out there. It was just me, and I'm like, all right, with no fish. This is the steelheading experience I want, though.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I don't, the solitude, the encounters with nature. It's just a beautiful thing. So I got off the water fairly early that day, and as I was leaving, the explosion of trucks showed up. So there was multiple people at the spot I was at, and then when I was driving, I was like, oh, maybe I'll go hit up this other spot, and I was like, oh, 7 trucks, nope, I'm out, and I was like, I'm just gonna call it a day.
So you must have just started really early.
I got there really early at first light, yeah, and so, anyways, from there,
I'm
I
gonna
was
have to
like,
start doing that soon too, man. I'm not looking forward to
yeah.
that. That's getting the
Yeah.
days of getting up at 4:30. I'm not looking
Yeah. So
forward to.
speaking of, like earlier before the podcast, we were talking about like not sleeping well last night. I woke up at 4 o'clock, like 4:30, like wide awake, and I was like, all right, is this fishing excitement right now, or like I'm like, all right, there's a little bit of that, and I'm like, I think I might miss my alarm if I don't get
Yeah.
up right now. So I
Yeah,
was
man,
like,
that's when I naturally like wake up like hovering around 5. Just like slightly earlier than it
yeah,
usually. But I don't I don't want to have to wake up at 4:30 or 4.
yeah, I get
Like
it,
hovering around 5
I get it,
is fine.
yeah.
I don't know, man.
Uh, so anyways, to wrap up that day from there, I tied a bunch of flies, worked on the article, and did a lot of work with the website, and just kept kept going along there. And then that led to this morning. Tyler Cooney, what's up, brother? And I went, and we were like, we're gonna go fish Johnson. We haven't been there in years, both of us. So I was like, let's go, just see what's up.
This is this
And
morning?
yes,
Nice.
yes.
I
So
recommended it to him.
yeah. So I still had the nymph setup on, so I modified that a little bit, and because I knew it was going to be a lot shallower even than where I was fishing, just based on because I the spots we'd gone to, I did know a little bit, so I kind of remember the layout. And he had a streamer on, and I was like, okay, whatever. Like 2 guys fishing right now, let's have 2 approaches, see what's going on. Nothing was going on.
Water low?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's that creek always intrigues me because it can be like almost crystal clear, but like dark at the same time.
Yeah.
Like you can see very far into the water, but it's just that very dark
Yeah,
stain
you
to
don't
it.
have perspective.
Yeah, it's yes.
That's like the water up at and I forgot because Sandy Creek's like that too. And I don't know what because like up north it's tannins that are staining the water. So
Mm,
like in Wisconsin and Minnesota, Georgian Bay, Maine, like when you catch like smallmouth up there, those fish are black, and the water when you look at it, it just looks like oil. But when you look down, like you can see a long ways down, like the Petawawa River and Algonquin, like you
mm.
could go down there and there's probably like 8 or 9 feet of visibility, but just because the water is so dark from it's like tea,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
that's a great way to
almost
explain it.
literally like tea, it's tea for it's just pine needle tea,
Yeah, yeah,
But I'm not sure what gives
yeah,
the Ontario tribs their
yeah.
tannin color. I'm not sure that it's just pine. It's something to do with the trees, but
Mm.
anyway.
So yeah, no fishing, real fishing encounters there, but a lot of birding ones. So on the drive, there's a detour, and we're like, all right, this kind of sucks, but whatever. So we started going, and we turn, and I look up in this dead tree, and I'm like, no way, there's 2 red-tailed hawks in the same tree. I'm like,
This
badass.
fucking dude, man.
So I'm like, bro, stop. Like he turned, and I'm like, stop and look. And he turned around, and one did fly away by the time he turned, but they were there. And long story short, by the time I've driven around everywhere, did all my stuff today, I've seen 7 red-tailed hawks. So super stoked. That's an
Dudes are out
amazing
hunting
thing.
today. Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
sun was
And
out. Good
tons
visibility,
of
I
turkey
guess.
vultures too, more than I could count. Yeah, it was it was one of those super nice spring days. Everything was out and about, the birds, the squirrels, the raptors, everything. So it
You
was
know what I was thinking about yesterday? So two turkey vultures ended up in my next door neighbor's backyard, and I have no idea
mm,
why. They just landed there for like they were chilling. There's no carrion or anything around. I don't know what they were doing
yeah.
there. They were just chilling there for a little bit. But while they were there, I started wondering. I've never seen a vulture roost. Like
Mm,
I've seen them roost in trees where, but the trees will vary, from night to night. Like in South America, the black vultures and king vultures will just cruise around and they'll just roost in
yeah,
different places.
okay.
They're like turkeys,
Yeah, yeah.
like they get together. But I've never seen them nesting somewhere. Like, have you ever seen a
Mm,
turkey vulture nest?
no,
Yeah, neither have
no.
I. I'm sure they exist, but where are they? I gotta look
Yeah,
that up.
that's an interesting one. Yeah, I have no idea on that.
Randa.
But yeah, that's pretty much my fishing recap. But
Nice.
yeah, how about you?
Well, I had to cancel a bunch of trips this past week because of there were choppy days. So Monday was fishable, Tuesday was not. I had a guy coming Monday and Tuesday. And he travels a long distance. He doesn't want to just fish a day and then go home.
Yeah.
So he wants at least a good crack. So we canceled. Same thing for Wednesday, Thursday. Wednesday, like poured rain. There was a huge ice
Yeah.
flow anyway, um, like a big ice flow. And then Thursday was a little more tame, but no, it was still fairly windy and it snowed a little bit, like especially Thursday night into Friday morning. But on Wednesday, though, because I canceled that trip, like it was snowing Wednesday morning when I went out, but I fished in the harbor.
Hmm.
But there was a big east pushing and it was
Yeah.
snowing and raining. And I just went to fish like the North Gap area. I just wanted to see if I could. But the east wind ended up pushing a bunch of huge icebergs, like pretty much right at us. And like, well, I don't want to get trapped just, nosing through
Yeah.
that. So we scurried around and we poked around at a couple of other spots, and I didn't mark much, and we were just hanging out,
Yeah.
dude. And then yeah, so I fished for real on Friday, and that was an awesome day. Like I fished the Lower Niagara with
Awesome.
this guy Tim Corney and his son Noah. They fished with me a bunch in the past, and when I pulled, like we were the only boat there. We had the whole entire river to ourselves. There was one Canadian guide, but he was totally out of our way. Like we weren't sharing the same water. Like the two of us basically had the whole entire system to ourselves, and it was crazy. And
That's awesome.
so like there are definitely fish down there. We had a really high bite rate. I mean, we caught a lot of fish that day. And the kid, like Noah, is like 12 years old, and he was hammering like just
That's awesome.
consistently. Like he and his dad both caught the same amount. He caught a slam, like big brown, big steelhead, big laker. So
Beautiful.
he crushed it. And then he caught multiple steelhead, multiple brown trout, multiple lake trout, but like he caught the biggest of all three of his dad caught bigs too. He just didn't get a slam. He didn't get any browns.
Mm.
But bottom line, awesome day. Had the
Yeah.
whole place to
Sounds like it.
ourselves. Now, Friday or Saturday, I was supposed to fish with Tim and his son, but Saturday was supposed to be more of the same, especially in the morning, like some rain and big northwests in the morning. And we're like, look, I mean, as awesome as it was, like, why do 2 days in a row of the same thing?
Yeah,
Like,
for
just
sure.
stuck in one, because we couldn't go too far downriver Friday. Like, there was a big northwest. So we were confined to certain places, but those places were on fire. So it
Mm.
didn't matter. Like,
Yeah.
we just had a blast hanging out there and playing the hand that we were dealt. Um, But yeah, so we opted to not do it 2 days in a row. He's booked at the end of the month, so it doesn't matter. So I took Saturday off and I fished today. And today, that's why I'm all like beet red right now. Like it was sunny,
Mm-hmm.
and I definitely got sunburned. I fished Lake Ontario today out of Olcott, and yeah, we struggled on browns. There was a lot of boats out. I'm not sure if that contributed. Wasn't very much stained water around. It's a bunch of not great things for browns. So I went out deep, and we ended up getting into lake trout out there. So that's
Oh,
good.
nice.
That scene's setting up.
Yeah.
So that was my week. I saw my first common terns this year on the
Nice.
lower Niagara. There were just two of them. I haven't seen very many more. Cormorants are coming in waves, like huge V formations now. When I was on Ontario today, we had chironomids on us, so those bugs are starting to hatch, which is a warm water thing. Really, only in shallow, not out deep. But
I thought of another very cool observation from today that I wanted to mention, and of course I forgot about it. So early in my travels today, got on the road late, so it was already daylight. Pass over the canal. Very beautiful blue water with ice in it. Okay, go out, go fishing.
the
Went to my
canal.
uncle's, yeah, Erie Canal, yeah, and then over like on passing
Oh, so
by
like way
dockside,
upstream of.
by
Oh, okay.
dockside and stuff.
There's blue water in there.
Yeah.
Really?
So then, and I even texted Tyler that, and then I pass over a few hours later, no ice, chocolate milk,
Yeah, it just
and
shifted.
I was like, wow.
Yeah,
In a few hours, that
east wind blew it all over there.
it was nuts. So, I thought that that was a pretty rapid change to see
Yeah.
within a few hours there, and because Tyler and I were talking about fishing the canal, and he was like, "Dude, like we just it's just always muddy like for forever this time of year." And I'm like, "I know." And then I saw it, I was like, "Oh, it's bright blue, beautiful, but with ice." And then shot within a very short
Dude,
period
I
of
just
time,
think
but
like if you could dial a canal scene in, it would be so sweet. You know, it would be very very cool
it's a very neat
because you
place. I
can you
like it.
can fish it under any conditions. I mean, you could just get in there. It's just
Yeah.
I don't know what the populations are like close to here, but I think further upstream though, there's some wild stuff going on the further upstream you go, Tonawanda Creek. Like I guarantee you, there's northerns up there, like sizable northerns, and nobody's in there targeting them. They're just living their life. Like, dude, I can talk about this now because it's been well publicized. But like years and years ago, my buddy Josh McQueen, who guides in Ohio, he discovered a northern pike fishery in like the middle of Ohio. And I'm not going to name names or anything. It's just in the middle of Ohio. He discovered this northern pike fishery, and it's like these very small creeks. Like picture creeks like twice as wide as Johnson,
Okay.
and but deeper though.
Mm,
Like just a lot of slack water, not current, just deeper
okay.
channels. Like if you go further downstream on Johnson, there's some really deep pools there. Like that's all private land, but I used to have access to that. I haven't fished the Johnson farm in years now, but Clay Johnson used to give me access out there, and I'd fish it. And there's some really deep holes that I guarantee you have browns right now. But
Mm,
because that's when the water's shallow, they're not into being exposed. They would just
yeah.
rather sulk in deep stuff and wait for the water to come up, or they just leave the tributaries altogether and they just
Mm,
wait for the water to come
yeah.
back up, and they'll just run back in there and see if they can get some food.
Makes sense.
Because there's all kinds of stuff coming through that water. It's
Yeah.
draining, so they'll run up in there and eat whatever they can eat, especially if there's steelhead in there spawning or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway,
So the creek for the northern pike,
yeah, do it.
about that size. Yeah, that's nuts. Anyways, so leading into the deeper part of our conversation today, it lines up with everything we talk about as always,
Yeah,
animals and all that. But uh, last week on the podcast, Ryan was talking about saying hello or what's up to the kingfisher on the lower, like haven't seen you in a year or whatever.
I said that to the terns when I saw
There we go. So
them.
I wrote this as the topic for the podcast that I wanted to do today is like being friends or the friendship with animals, the birds, the fish, the mammals, and all the things that kind of popped through my head real quick were, like the migratory birds, that we only engage with certain times of the year, or like ones that return to the same areas. Uh, Mammals, like I thought about, people who feed squirrels that get used to that, or your dog who's a well trained, the connection we have with them, and then the fish, especially fishermen. It's like we make contact with these things pretty frequently. There have been times, I'm betting for you, and also I have at least two times where the same fish has gotten caught, and I'm like, all right, well, that's an interesting phenomenon right there. So you got to say what's up to that fish twice now. So that's pretty cool. Um, but it's just like there's, we're always talking about getting tuned into like nature and like the environment of like where your ecosystem that you're in. And each one of those encounters, like it is building like a relationship with that species in a way. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And I don't know, man. Take it from there. I guess
I
that's
mean,
my
well, I think about it a little different. So the dog. Let's
yeah.
start with the dog. And people can spew all kinds of hate out on me after what I'm about to say, and whatever. But like, so we have a French bulldog. We didn't buy this dog. It was given to us by my mother when she was going through something, and so we took the dog over. This is years ago. I had no vote in the process. We were supposedly just watching it for a couple of weeks while my mom moved. But then years went by and the dog didn't go anywhere, and didn't have a say. My mom moved and she didn't want the dog, so we were stuck with the dog. My wife and my daughter love the dog. I have a very difficult time respecting the animal. Look. I mean, he has definitely been trained and bred to shower humans with love. Like that's what he was bred and trained to do, to shower humans with love, and he does that like better than any other creature. The dude's super well behaved. Like he would protect Charlotte. Like when Charlotte was a baby, he was super gentle around her. Like he knew exactly what his limits were. The dude is like super intuitive around humans. Like senses when people are upset. Like he's bred to do that, right? But the overwhelming majority of his consciousness is spent sleeping on a couch. He's not conscious. Yeah. When he is awake, like right now, he's upstairs, no doubt, like sleeping next to my wife as she's watching TV or whatever. Like so, and he didn't. He was bred for a purpose. Now, so it's just I don't. It's just different. Like so, when I'm out there, remember what I was saying. Like that dog is an in here dog. Mm-hmm. It's like inside the four walls dog. The climate controlled. You can turn the lights on and off. Like totally isolated dog. Out there, the way that I interact with that scene is totally different. I don't like the yeah. I mean, like the when I say what's up to birds, I'm saying it like just like I say what's up to fish, but I'll say that what's up to fish before I kill them sometimes. Like it's more just that's kind of my general vibe, I guess. Is just like to me, it's another like wild interaction. Mm-hmm. Because remember what we were talking about last week, that like when you're out there, the level of stimuli that you're getting is sometimes just there's so much stuff going on that the rectangle just doesn't even compare to so
yeah. I've yet to have a phone interaction where I'm at the same level of seeing a bald eagle, dude.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's just like it's a super.
But the other thing too is like the more time that you spend outside, the more you start. I think your mind starts tapping into like a stream that the rest of nature is going through at the same time. Meaning, like for example, we've had this just very, very, very slow, grindingly slow warming process here. Like just a fraction of a degree. It's just been super cold. Like there will still be ice on Lake Erie in May. Like for sure there will be. Like it's what's today's the 13th.
Yeah.
So that's, we're talking, was that 17 days away? Easily.
Yeah.
Like it's so that's how slow, and it's not big. It's not because the ice boom's there. Like the ice boom had like you could see the river every day. There's ice flowing down it.
Oh yeah.
But
pretty packed on my way over. Yeah.
Why was I going on about the slow the coldness though? Totally lost my train of thought there.
I'm not entirely sure. Friends with animals. We were talking about.
Yeah. So the because it's been grindingly slow, I feel like a lot of the mammals and some of the birds that are here now are just like, oh man, this sucks. Like just hanging out in that because like the last 4 years, we've been so spoiled by, uh, warm temperatures, we just forgot.
Yeah.
Like we forgot
Yeah.
what it was like, what it's normally like, and I'll talk about that in a second, but. So that's how my mind was starting to feel. And then today, sunny, you hear way more birds. There's a lot of animals that are active. Like things are like, all right, man, like there's some hope.
Yeah,
there's some hope. Then if you look at next week's forecast, it's like, yeah, no. I mean, again, like a slight bump.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be like we're going to be in this very interesting thing for a while. So like the creatures that I look forward to seeing, we're all just like, oh man, this sucks.
Yeah, for
like
sure.
that's the general vibe. So when I see one of those birds out there, I'm like, hey, what's up, man? Like I totally feel what that, like I understand what that thing is dealing with right now. Like man, I just think about this all the time. Like I don't know how, like, I mean, birds can obviously puff their feathers out and they can stay warm, but like there's just creatures that are persistently exposed. Like I mean, and they make it. They make it. Like we're that weak. Like it's just crazy that like they make it. And I just, how did we used to?
Yeah.
I mean, was it were we wearing furs? I mean, I don't. That couldn't have been all of it.
Yeah. Oh, there definitely had to have been a much higher threshold too, and with not like yet again getting more in tune with the environment and everything. Like when you're not relying on AC and heating as much, you get a lot more accustomed to the outside temperature and like you adapt to that more. So imagine if you're constantly, if you're exposed to the colder nights every single night, like you provide or adapt or overcome. So, circling back though as well, yeah, I definitely see where like the big deviation obviously between like a house pet and like the outside world and everything for sure. Do you feel like do you think the birds like I guess for the Merlins they actually came to mind too, like they at least have a general sense of this is like so you could be fairly certain that that's the same exact set of birds. Obviously not.
Yeah, or their kids.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So what do you think stems that as well? Because that's like
why are they coming back here? You mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how, because they ended up here 4 years ago, and they've been back because I've been like totally tracking birds ever since I moved here in 2016. It's almost 9 years ago. They just showed up 4 years ago. I don't know what brought them here, but when they got here, they saw that there was ample prey. Mm-hmm. There's tons of house sparrows and rodents and small bird, the goldfinches. I mean, there's all kinds of
Yeah.
birds around here. Like they have tons of stuff to feed on. So they're like, oh, this place is excellent, and
Yeah.
they set up shop and they make nests every year. They usually have at least 2 chicks, and I don't know where the chicks go. It's just usually only 2 that come back here, and then by the end of the summer or whatever, or like early summer, there's 4, and then they go somewhere else, and then they fly back down here. Like they usually
Yeah.
go north for a little while, and then they stop here on their way back south.
Yeah.
But so they know that there's bounty here. But like I'm
Yeah.
telling you, every year I hear the same, and I could probably rattle almost all of them off, like 24 to 26 species of birds every year in my backyard, the same ones. They're definitely not all here yet.
Yeah.
But like that's the like the event that I'm looking
Yeah.
for,
For sure. So the reason I brought that up specifically is because like that is a like an interesting pattern, pattern of life, like and those birds specifically that are coming back to the same areas, that's a level of like familiarity and intelligence of, and like and I suppose most animals that are in, or all animals I guess that are living in the natural world have a sense of their surroundings far greater than we do, like
Yeah,
being
dude,
separated. But like that's an interesting.
It is. I can't remember if we talked about this off of a podcast or on a podcast about how we lost the connection to like Earth's magnetic fields, and
we probably talked about it on a podcast by now at some point.
yeah. But I mean, look, the main theory behind how like monarch butterflies and all of these migratory songbirds, etc., how they know where they're going is they're tapped into, like a magnetic field.
Yeah.
Same thing with certain fish, like salmon, trout, different trout that run up tributaries, all fish. Some of them have greater degrees than others. There's certain birds that never leave an area. This is where they live. Others migrate. Some of the same species will migrate and some will stay. Just like some bass will do long spawning runs, others will just kind of stay put. If all those different creatures are tapped into that, like look at all the like elk, you could talk about elk migrations, bison migration, all these different things.
Yeah.
Antelope, whatever. If all they're connected to it, why wouldn't we be? Like we totally are. We've just filled our heads with so much other stuff that we just lost our ability to connect to that. I can't remember, because I read a few articles recently where they were talking about human beings do have a sense of smell close to most dogs. There's certain dogs like bloodhounds that have like huge noses with like all these olfactory glands, whatever they are in there. But like I can smell just as good as my French bulldog. I guarantee you, dude. Like I'm pretty positive. So I mean, who knows? I mean, the dude's face is all smashed in. I mean, how much is he smelling? Like that many pugs? But yeah, I mean,
speaking on that, like just as an outdoors person, like I think I talk to my buddy Scott about this now and again while we're hiking. Is like we have our sense of smell. Whether we use it is a different thing. Like you can be in a natural setting and use your smell to your advantage.
Yeah, you're gonna default to certain things just because of how what your life's been like. Like if you that's why you hear that people that are blind get an amazing sense of hearing because they don't have that sense. So their mental energy can be dedicated to
elsewhere.
Whatever the theory is behind it. But I think it's like, I think it's true that blind people have better hearing than most people than the average Joe, just because they can focus all their energy towards that or their other senses.
Yes, for sure.
Touch, whatever. But yeah, I mean.
Are you ready? You ready for another aspect to this whole conversation?
Drop it, bro.
All right, ravens and crows. Like there's a common thing where like you can exchange gifts with them, or people develop that relationship with them. Like you leave them something shiny, they bring you back like or they bring you back something shiny,
Right.
whatever. You know what I'm saying? So, what level of what's the word? Awareness. What level of awareness do you think that animal? Obviously hypothetical. We'll never know. But what level of awareness do you think that animal is having with this interaction? Like it clearly has to understand that there's a mutual like benefit here, right?
Right.
Like it's not just a random act.
Even if it's not, I mean, I don't know that it looks at it as far as it being benefit. Because what's the crow being rewarded other than?
Well, maybe it's getting food in this situation potentially as well, and then it brings back. If you feed it often, maybe it's bringing you back like a quarter.
Well, yeah,
I don't know, dude. I've never done it. I've heard of stories similar at least. So or paper clips.
I mean,
you
could definitely slowly domesticate crows, or at least get them comfortable with being around you, and ravens too. I mean, it's not like a huge stretch. Like you could just slowly bait them over time. I think you can do that with a lot of birds.
Well, yeah, and like we I think last year or whatever, like we were talking about getting them to land in your hand and everything. Like that's
Cause you like if you go to Goat Island in the winter with food in your hand, you will be able to feed a ton of different species of birds. If I did that in my backyard, that would never happen.
Yeah.
Like
So,
I would have to lead up to that. I would have
Yeah.
to bait every day and
Yeah,
get them
you'd have to
coming
get
in all
them
the time.
familiar for it.
Yeah.
To it. And with that, like I guess that's more so just not necessarily a relationship, but more so a desensitization, at least in that case. Like with the crow, like I think that would be more of like a direct. You know what I'm saying? It's not just, I guess, but like it's not like every person it sees. It's just, you know. So that's an interesting.
They're. I think they're just the most successful creatures on this planet, and this is a dicey proposition, but I'm just thinking through this. The most successful creatures on this planet are going to be directly tied to humans. You know, like because by many different metrics, we're probably the dominant like by many different metrics, we are the dominant species on this planet. So any dominant by a bunch of different metrics, and we could debate any one of those if you want. But assuming that we are, a creature that attaches itself to us in some way, shape, or form is also going to be successful. You know, like it's why certain bugs, you know, especially cockroaches, rats, you know, all the raccoons, the rabbits, you know, crows, ravens. No. What's up? It's just turned off.